Hi, my name is Tom. I'm an Ableton certified trainer, and in this video we're going to take a look at a technique that you can use to take a simple loop and turn it into more of a fully fleshed arrangement. A kind of common workflow that I've seen a lot of people use is to sort of sketch out in a loop in the arrangement view where you just kind of are slowly adding in parts to your track, and you might end up with something like this. I've got here sort of the start of a track with a couple different parts. We've got like 8 different tracks here with different parts in them, but it's really just a simple loop. So let's have a listen to what that sounds like. Cool, so it's kind of an interesting loop, but it hasn't got much structure to it. So let's see how we can sort of flesh this out into a more fully featured arrangement. Now, I wanted to use this opportunity to look at something that I see a lot of people kind of neglecting in Ableton, and that is Ableton's other view, the session view. So at the moment we're looking at the arrangement view, but if we click these toggles up in the top, we can switch to the session view. If you're not familiar with the session view takes the tracks that we have in the arrangement view and it sort of flips them 90 degrees. We've got the same set of tracks. We've got Vox, FM Bells, Juno. You can see I've got that exact same set of tracks here. So we share the same set of tracks between the two views, but we have different content within those views. So I've obviously got these looped parts that I've created here in the arrangement, but they're not currently in the session view. And we can move different parts between these different views. But the session view, there's a number of different things that you use it for, but one thing it's really good for is to sort of function as a sketch pad to try out different ideas really quickly, and particularly around creating arrangement structures. There's a sort of technique you can use to very quickly come up with an arrangement for your track. So the first thing that we need to do is get our parts over from the arrangement view into the session view. And that's relatively simple to do. We just select all these parts, hold down Shift to select all of those. I can grab them under the mouse. The shortcut to switch between the two views is the Tab key. And then I can just drop these over here, making sure to drop them on the correct tracks. I'll press this stop button over in the bottom right here. This is the global stop. What you'll notice is if I hit play now, I can still hear my tracks playing, but they're actually currently playing from the arrangement view. So in order to sort of go back to the session view and stop everything that's in the arrangement view, I need to press this stop button over here. Now if I hit play, I can't hear anything because nothing is playing in the session view. There's one quick thing that I want to sort of bring up before we move ahead with creating this arrangement to be aware of when moving things from the arrangement view to the session view is if you are a producer who creates things in the arrangement view and you start in the arrangement view, when you record and create parts in this view, sometimes they might not be recorded as a loop, and you might use various different ways of looping that. So when we move it over to the session view, we want to make sure that the clips that we have here are loops. So if I take a clip and I double click on it to open up the clip view here, right up here in the clip section you can see it says at the moment this is a loop. But you'll see if I turn this off and I now play this drum pattern, what you'll notice will happen is it's just going to play once and then stop. So if you've got a clip like that, you want to make sure that you turn loop on and make sure that the loop brace that's up at the top of the clip here is neatly mapped to exactly the length of the loop. Now, in the session view, the way clips work is each clip has its own play button. And I can trigger this to have that clip just loop endlessly. And what this allows me to do in the session view is I can trigger different parts, and you'll notice that they always come in on the next downbeats. I can also click the stop buttons below clips to stop that clip playing, or I can click the stop buttons all the way at the bottom of the, sort of in the middle of the track here rather, to stop that clip from playing. And what you can sort of really start to notice is that it's very easy for me to try different combinations of clips together Hit a stop button to take a clip out, play button, bring a clip in. And if I want to stop everything, hit the stop button in the bottom right. So that already gives me kind of this flexible way of just trying out different combinations of my parts to sort of create what might be future structures for my track. So for example, maybe I want to start this particular track with the chords and the drums. Let's say this is going to be my intro. The other thing that we have in the session view is if we head all the way over to the right to the main track here, you'll see that I have play buttons over here as well. And these represent what we call scenes. A scene is essentially a collection of clips on a particular row. And what we can do is we can move clips onto a particular row. So if I move these clips here, and clicking that row will trigger all the clips on that row, including all the stop buttons. So you'll see now if I click this top row, this top scene, it triggers all the clips in my top row. And then now it triggers all the clips in this row. So you can sort of think of scenes as like the sections of your song. So this is my intro. If you wanted to, you can also actually even rename these scenes. You can right click and say rename if you want to keep track of the different sections as you go. So here's my intro. Let's say maybe next I want to bring in these FM bells for the next section. Now I could go in here and manually kind of copy these all down to a new scene, hold Alt maybe and drag these down. It's a bit kind of laborious. Fortunately, Live has a really handy shortcut for exactly this particular situation. If we head up to the Create menu, there's this option for Capture and Insert Scene. The shortcut is Command-Shift-I. It's a good one to remember because you'll be using that a lot. And what that'll do is that'll take all the currently playing clips, even if they're on different scenes. So you can see FM Bells is on my first scene, whereas these other two clips are on the third scene. So if I go Create, Capture and Insert Scene, it copies those clips and drops them down to the scene below the one I currently had selected. And so what you'll see is with this, particularly with this Command-Shift-I or Control-Shift-I if you're on a PC shortcut, I can really quickly bring in different parts and then capture them to a scene, which will be a section of my song. So let's just kind of jam around with this a bit. Maybe I bring in this tambourine, and I'll just hit Command-Shift-I. So there's a new section. Maybe I'll take out these bells, bring in some congas, and maybe my vocal part here. Again, Command-Shift-I. Really easily copy those down to a new scene. Let's stop the vocal. Maybe let's try stopping the drums. This could be an interesting section. Command-Shift-I, capture that as a scene. So let's keep going and just building up a couple different scenes. So here's an interesting scene. Maybe I'll take the congas out for this one. Command-Shift-I. Bring the shakers in and FM bells. And I'll bring in this vocal part here. Now, what you can start to see emerge is I've already got this kind of structure forming for my track. And just using my scenes, I can play through from the top to the bottom just by triggering the scenes, this sort of rough structure that I've created. So this might be my intro. And then I've got the kind of building section. Jump to the next section. And of course, as I'm going, I can edit these. Maybe I think, oh, actually, I want to take the drums out here. So I'll just select that clip, delete it, and then move to the next section. So on and so forth. So from this point, you've already seen how sort of pretty quick it is to create all these different structures and sections that we can work with. The next step is to start to move these back to the arrangement view to create a structure. And there's a number of different ways that we can do this. First, I'm just going to hop back over to the arrangement and I'll Command-A and delete all the parts that I have in there. So I've got a blank arrangement. Go back to the session view. The first way that I can get things across is I can just manually drag them across. I can do this either by selecting clips themselves. So I could select these two clips, grab them under the mouse, press tab, and drop them over here, making sure to drop them in the correct tracks. Or I could take entire scenes as well. So I could click and drag on this whole scene, hold that under the mouse, and drop that whole scene across. So that's sort of one way that I can take it across, and I can then work with these in the way I would work in the arrangement view. Another kind of fun way to get these across is to actually just manually jam your arrangement on the fly and record it into the arrangement as you go. And this is a really fun way of approaching it because it lets you just kind of feel out how long should a section play for? Does that feel right to jump to the next section? So to do this, I'm first going to make sure I right-click on the global record button here, and I'm going to make sure Start Transport with Record is off. Because what I want to do is I want to be able to click this and have it not start recording straight away. It's armed my record. Now, as soon as I start playing clips, anything that I do in the session view is going to get captured into the arrangement. So I can just sort of jam with all these different sections that I've created. I don't necessarily have to go in this top to bottom order and build my structure that way. So I'll play this first section, and if I hop over to the arrangement view, you can see that that is now recording in. I'll go back to the session view, and maybe I decide I want to skip that section. Let's jump to this next section here. Let that play. I could jump back to the first section if I wanted to. And just really kind of jam out and feel my arrangement. When I'm done, hit the global stop button, and then also hit the stop button to stop the transport. And I can flip back over to the arrangement view, and here's this simple arrangement that I created. Obviously, I might go on and create a much longer arrangement. Now, the first thing you'll notice here, if you're not familiar with moving between the session view and the arrangement view, is these clips are all currently grayed out. And if I play this, I don't hear anything. The reason for this is just simply because Live has these two views, and you can have your focus sort of in one view or the other. And you can do that on a sort of global basis, on a per track basis. But because our tracks were just playing clips in the session view, the arrangement view is currently grayed out. All we need to do is hit this back to arrangement button up here, and that re-enables our arrangement. And I can go in and listen to the structure that I've created. I can even do things like punch into my arrangement if I want to change something. Maybe I think this first section up to bar 16 was really good, but from here I didn't quite like what I came in with. So I'll arm my global record, flip back over to the session view, and I'll just start a new record from that point. I'll trigger the scene I wanted to play. And you can see that that's overwriting what I had there before. I can just continue to play through my arrangement. And that all just gets recorded in here. Of course, from this point, you can use all your kind of conventional arrangement techniques, and there's a lot of sort of detail that you might need to go in and add to this to flesh out the arrangement. But this is a really kind of quick and helpful way to go from what you saw was just a relatively simple 2-bar loop into a much more kind of structured arrangement that you can then dive into further, add more parts to. So just as a reminder of what we've covered, we started in the arrangement view with a really simple loop. We took that across to the session view, where we took all our clips and we used the capture and insert new scene, Command-Shift-I shortcut to create all these scenes, and then just jam them across into the arrangement view to build up our structure.